US man who claims to be immortal has been deemed too mentally ill to be executed after spending over 2 decades on death row. John Richard Wood was sentenced to death after killing a state trooper during a traffic stop in December 2000 in the state of South Carolina. It amazes me how long a person actually spent on death row before anything actually happens, if anything actually happens at all for that matter. You know, in this guy's case, this is a perfect example. He spent like 2 decades on death row, but now he's deemed too mentally ill to actually be put to rest. He later shot at police officers while attempting to flee and was later arrested after attempting to hijack a truck, later being sentenced to death in 2002. However, a court has now ruled that he is not mentally fit to face the death penalty. According to a report from the South Carolina Daily, the 59-year-old believes he has already died 3 times while behind bars and is immortal. The ruling came after 3 mental health experts concluded that Woods' schizophrenia diagnosis meant that he was unable to understand why he was being punished. Now, do we believe that, or do we just think this guy's a really good actor? He cannot rationally and factually understand his crimes. The experts, which include a psychiatrist for the prosecution, as well as a psychologist and a psychologist with Woods' team, concluded that Wood could not rationally and factually understand the crime for which he was sentenced in 2002. South Carolina adds that Wood has been involuntarily committed to a psychiatric hospital 4 times within the past 10 years. He is also said to believe that law enforcement were trying to frame him for a brutal rape with his conviction, and that the judge in his trial was conspiring with agents of beloved Kevin Rudolph, a deputy which Wood believes he is fighting to rule the planet. What the fuck? What kind of crack are they serving him in prison? Jesus Christ. Woods is also said to believe that he was given wings and immortality in order to win the battle. Good for him. It is also stated that Woods is unable to communicate rationally with his attorneys. The ruling does not overturn Woods' original sentence and will now be put to the South Carolina Supreme Court, which could either uphold or overturn the decision. Wood is the first person to not be found competent for execution after South Carolina resumed putting people to death in September 2024 following a 13-year pause in executions due to a shortage of lethal injections. In question right here, because I was actually thinking that earlier when I was reading through the article. Because I'd never heard of that before. A person not being mentally fit for execution. So can a person be declared mentally unfit for execution? While following a 1986 legal battle, Ford versus Wayne White, the US Supreme Court upheld that rule that a mentally unwell person cannot be executed. A key part of this ruling stated that prisoners should be competent enough to understand the nature of the crime committed and its substantive punishment. Now, unfortunately, in the UK, we don't have the execution method anymore. And of course, just as life in general, people are divided on that in some ways. Some people will be supportive of the idea of no execution method, while others would be agreeing with that decision. Each to their own, 100% each to their own. Now, me personally, I think if you're the worst of the worst in terms of criminals, then you should be put to rest. Then an execution method should be in place for someone like, you know, a rapist, a child murderer, a child sex offender, wherever it may be, you know. For the worst of the worst, yeah, I think there should be methods put in place where these people don't deserve to be alive. That's just my opinion. I know some people would disagree with that, which is fine. As always, I like to get people's opinions, especially if they're from a different country, because I'm always curious to know how things work over in their country in terms of the law, compared to how things work over here with our laws and whatnot. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye for now.